Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the quarterly report for the first quarterly report for 2017, January through March releases. I'm your host, Richard Billy Jr., and today I'm joined by Mr. Gary A. Swaby. How's it going, Gary?
It's going good, man. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. Trying to get over my allergies, so I'm in much better shape today, though. We're also joined by Mr. Jake James Lugo. How's it going, Mr. Lugo?
I'm doing good, Rich. A lot of good games that we have to unpack. We had a good first quarter of this year so far.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're also joined by Mr. Tony Polanco. How's it going, Mr. Polanco?
Oh man, it's going great. Thanks for having me on, and I'm ready to talk about all these games. A lot of games, very difficult choices to make, man. But I'm ready.
Oh, it's going to be very difficult, no doubt about that. And we're also joined by Mr. Carlos Romero. How's it going, Carlos?
What's up, guys? It's going good. Can't wait to talk about Gameageddon, man. This was Gameageddon. Gameageddon came early this year, so can't wait to talk about all the games that we played.
Absolutely. And, as you guys already alluded to, yes, we had a very, very busy first quarter of 2017. I know there's been quite a bit of things going on in the news, so on and so forth, controversy, but we were very busy playing games for the last 3 months. So we definitely wanted to talk about some standout games from this quarter. So for those of you that, if this is your first time watching the quarterly report, we talk about 3 games from this particular quarter that we enjoyed, 1 game that we were disappointed by, and then we jump ahead to the next quarter and we talk about 1 game we're looking forward to and 1 game that we think is going to be a disappointment. So that is the format for those who are watching for the first time. So I'm going to go to Gary first because I know that Gary is a huge Overwatch fan. I already told him before we started recording that you cannot mention Overwatch as one of the games on your list. So Gary, I'm going to put the spot on you right now. Let us know which 3 games you enjoyed from the first quarter of 2017.
All right. Well, it's gonna be tough because I played like 90% Overwatch, but yeah, there are some games that I did enjoy that came out. So the first one is going to be Near Automata, just because I feel like that was like a breath of fresh air. Like I really wanted a game like that at this generation because I feel like we've kind of been missing this style of action RPG kind of thing. And Platinum Games are really good at creating like action games like this. And I like the variety of characters and the style of gameplay and stuff like that. It's really good. It's a really good mix. And my second is going to be Horizon Zero Dawn. I'm sure this will get mentioned quite a lot, but it is a fantastic game. Visually it looks great. There's lots to do in this game, and fighting robo dinosaurs is real. It's a real original concept in gaming. Like we haven't seen this too much. So yeah, and it's got a great story as well. Like I like the character development so far. I haven't got that far into the game, but just from where I've gone to, like I'm really enjoying the character development and the story and how it's progressing and everything. So yeah, definitely Horizon Zero Dawn. And my third one, I'm interested to see how much this is going to get mentioned as well. My third one is Mass Effect Andromeda. And I was actually prepared to possibly put this on the disappointed list, because we all know the controversy that was surrounding this game before its release and everything. But putting all that to the side, yes, it does have its flaws. The animations are a bit questionable at certain points. But once you put a good solid like 10 hours into this game, it's phenomenal, I think. And the point where I'm at, it's just like it just the content just keeps coming at you, and I'm really enjoying it. Like there's something very therapeutic about just ticking off all these objectives off of your journal and stuff like that. And it's not boring in any way. Like it's stuff that I actually want to do. Like I feel like I want to do it, and I'm doing it for the better of this galaxy kind of thing. So I'm really enjoying that experience. I'm enjoying revisiting the Mass Effect universe. And yeah, overall, just a great game so far, I think.
Yeah, I would say right now those are three solid picks. I'm pretty sure people are going to have something else to say about some of those games you mentioned. Mass Effect Andromeda is, you know, it's interesting so far. I don't know if I would say phenomenal, but I'll get into that a little bit later. But yeah, it's an awesome game. So let me see. Mr. Lugo, how about you go next and tell us three games you enjoyed from the first quarter of 2017?
So my picks, I'm gonna have to put a little asterisk there for everybody listening on this, because there are games that I wanted to play, and the big problem when you have times like this is that there's too many. There's way too many games that are coming out, and a lot of them are fantastic or really good titles that are highly recommended. The other thing too also is like that because of this first quarter and the way that things worked out, between new hardware and other stuff, there were certain games that I wanted to play or that we all wanted to play that we didn't get a chance to. And maybe one day during a Patreon exclusive episode, I'll get more into that specifically, because again, it's a whole odyssey in of itself. But three games that I thought were fantastic, that were great from this quarter, at least three of like a big group. Like I said before, there's just way too many good games that came out this quarter just to get into all of them. But the first one I want to give a nod to actually came out earlier in the year, Gravity Rush 2. Gravity Rush 2 I want to give a nice nod to, because I felt that was a game that was solid. It was an interesting experience. It was a game that, coming off its original and the remake that was on PlayStation 4, it was a game that knew exactly what it was. It didn't get a lot of shine because of all the other stuff that was coming out later in the month, I feel like, and especially into the following month, which is a shame because that game is still good and it's still fun to play through. And I felt like they improved upon the control scheme. They improved a lot of other aspects over the original Gravity Rush, and it was just a fun experience to go through. Okay, it was just a fun game. The second one I want to kind of go alongside with Gary on this one, Nier Automata. Game. Platinum Games really brought their A game to this, and it was really fun. The soundtrack in that game is one of my favorites this year thus far. Thought it was really awesome. The controls, the combat, the fact that it lends itself to multiple playthroughs, and then you're constantly still giving you like brand new stuff. Things like that, especially for this type of genre, for action games, I think is awesome. I think more people need to play Nier Automata. It's a fun experience as well. And then finally, my third game, which is without question Horizon Zero Dawn. I jumped into it later than most other people, but to be honest with you, even though I haven't finished it yet, I've gotten really deep into that game outside of, playing games for work and stuff. That's a game that I also feel like is another must play on PlayStation 4. And the reason being is because not only does it have a very interesting, very deep, and very intricate story, just the world that you could explore, the environment, the map, how vast it is. And like, even right from the very get-go, you have a large area to explore, but then it opens up even further afterwards. And, when it goes along, the amount of story that you progress through. And then just all again, a lot of the stuff, the ideas, even though they're borrowing elements from other open world, games, especially a couple that have come out more recently, or at least alongside of it. And, the comparisons are there, but this one just feels unique, and it feels, just interesting to go through. And it's not something that you really kind of, would have expected from Guerrilla Games. They're known for Killzone, and that's something that needs to be highly commended, with them taking a risk and taking a completely different approach to the way that they design a game. So I thought that was awesome, and I'm still enjoying it even now. But those are my three main picks of the first quarter of 2017.
Once again, three solid picks. This is going to be very difficult. This whole show, I may keep saying three solid picks, so you guys are going to be picking similar games to what I was going to mention. But listen, there's a lot of great games that came out, so we'll have to see how the rest of this show goes. So, Mr. Polanco, how about you go next and tell us which three games you enjoyed the most for the first half of the year?
Yeah, before I get into it, I just want to just again, I got to set the stage here, right? To me, this is the quarter we've all been waiting for this generation. This generation, we've had some good games, right? Don't get me wrong. We've had some good games scattered here and there, but we've been waiting for that Cambrian explosion moment where everything just dropped, right? So, and this was it. We got so many good games that this was the first time in my gaming history that I had to stop playing games so I could play other games. It's just so insane, right? You had Gravity Rush 2, which was dope, Yakuza 0, fucking Nier, Neo, Zelda, crazy ass games coming out, right? But again, only three could survive So these are the ones I picked. So I'm gonna start off with, to me, probably it's the game of the year for me right now. Something could change at the end of the year. Red Dead Redemption 2 comes out, but right now, my game of the year is fucking Horizon Zero Dawn. Like JJ said, we weren't expecting a game like this from Guerrilla Games. They made Killzone, and the last game these guys made, Killzone Shadowfall, it was the first game that came out on PlayStation 4. One of the worst games I've ever played in my life. Terrible game, right? Just boring. Like, it looked nice, right? But everything was just so bland. And then for them to come out with one of the most like imaginative games like that I've played in a long time, like a game that's just so filled with like passion and love. Like, you could tell they really poured themselves into this game, man. Such a rich, vibrant world, great characters. Love the robot dinosaurs, the graphics, everything about this game is just fire. Like Horizon, I can't speak enough about that game. Like, I'm so happy that the game already sold like 2.6 million in 2 weeks. This game's going to be a beast. And when Sony bundles this with the PS4 at the end of the year, it's going to be bananas. Trust me on this. Going to be insane. So that's my number one. My number two, and I'm surprised no one's brought this up yet, Resident Evil 7, right? This was another one of these games, man, because Resident Evil 6 was a trash heap. The game was terrible. Like, that game almost killed the entire franchise. And then like Revelations 2 wasn't really helping things, right? This game, not only did it completely reinvent Resident Evil, but it reinvented it while also bringing it back to its roots, survival horror, but it's modern survival horror. And there's still a lot of nods in there to the original Resident Evil games. And even like towards the later half of the game, you're like, okay, this is some straight up Resident Evil shit going on right now. Brilliant game. I love what Capcom did, and I hope they keep going forward with this. And if you play this in VR, like I did, man, you will shit your pants. This is a scary game. Like, I couldn't play this game for more than like an hour a day. That's how crazy it was. But brilliant game. And then the last game I want to talk about is, and it just came out this week, Mass Effect Andromeda. Just like Gary, I was fully expecting to put this game into disappointment pile just based on all the memes and shit, because it looks bad, right? Like, with the dumbass faces and stuff. But once you get into it, you're like, this is Mass Effect. Not only is it Mass Effect, but it's giving you that same feel of the very first Mass Effect, that sense of awe and wonder and terror of what's out there, right? Everything's just so brand new. I love all that. It really feels like a solid Mass Effect game, but they've even added more to it, especially when it comes to combat. Like, not only you have more combat options in terms of just shooting people, but you could traverse shit more with the jetpack and all that. That's dope. And again, I just love exploring this brand new galaxy, checking out planets and just, checking out these massive worlds. Like, every level is just enormous, right? So it's just great that it's, again, kind of like Resident Evil 7. They've redone things, but still keeping it fresh and original, man. Fantastic game. Like, I know a lot of people shit on it, and yes, those faces look janky as shit, but man, the game is just fire, man. Love Mass Effect Andromeda. So yeah, there you go. Those are my 3 picks.
Awesome picks. Let me just make a quick comment real quick, because I saw some people have mentioned in the chat about what I had to say about Mass Effect. I didn't say Mass Effect is a bad game. It definitely needs a lot more polish, as you guys have alluded to, the animations, the facial stuff. Yeah, it needs that. But I'm going to talk on it more after I let Carlos go first. So Carlos, let us know which games you enjoyed most for the last 3 months.
Yeah, so first of all, shout out to Resident Evil 7, which isn't part of the 3. It was a good game, but 3, I can't put that in the 3. Shout out to Gravity Rush 2 and Nier Automata, which are 2 games that I desperately want to play, but I can't. Like, I can't play because there's too many things that I've been playing that I've been wanting to play that I just can't get to, and everyone's been saying that they're really good games, so I want to give them a shout out too. But as far as my third game, I want to choose, just to pick up from what Tony last said, Mass Effect Andromeda. Like, all the things that have been said about what's bad about it has been like they're accurate. Like the face stuff is janky as shit. Like, one thing that I hate about it is the voice acting and the script. Like, some of the dialogue is just kind of questionable. I'm like, why the hell are you saying this? Like, some stupid stuff, but at the end of the day, like, it's just a deep game. It's a game that, like, I mentioned this on Throwdown. It reminds me a little bit of Battlestar Galactica. It gives you all that wonder and that need to survive and to inhabit a planet that you're gonna live in. You know, it gives you that kind of feel, and it's kind of interesting. I don't know. I don't really get a Mass Effect 1 vibe from it. The only thing I get a vibe from Mass Effect 1 is there's so many freaking options to pick that you get confused of what you're doing. Like when you press the start on the journal, and then there's all these things, a list of things that you need to do. There's all these weapons. You can modify weapons and you can create weapons, and it's crazy. Like there's so many things you can do in this game. There's so many side quests, and from the get-go, once you start in the game, there's just so many side quests you can do. You can start the game without ever like you get on this thing called the Nexus, right? And you can do like a lot of missions. You can just freaking traverse the whole place without even going anywhere, and that'll take you hours. So I want to mention Mass Effect. Yeah, it has its flaws, but it's still a great game. It's still, to its core, it's a great game. So I wanted to mention that. Number 2, Yakuza 0. Yakuza 0, man, I was so surprised. This is the first Yakuza game I've played, right? The story is so good. The story is so enticing. There's like it's like you're building your way up, like, because you know, like you eventually end up as a Yakuza. Spoiler alert, because that's the whole point of the game. But like it's the way you build your character up and what you have to go through to get to that place, you know. And yeah, like I still haven't beat it because number 1 game came out, but yeah, man, it's interesting. Like it's so fun playing. Like whenever you get into a fight scene in Yakuza, it's like one of the best gaming experiences. It's like you get so thrilled to like want to beat up people. It's so awesome, man, and the mechanics are really good. So Yakuza 0 is number 2. Number 1, this is like obvious. It's my game of the year so far, and that's Horizon Zero Dawn. Horizon Zero Dawn, man, it's just a well-crafted game. It doesn't do anything new. But it does a lot of things from a lot of different genres and it takes a lot from a lot of different games, but it does it so well crafted. It does it so perfectly, you know. The graphics are amazing. The story is great. The dinosaurs or whatever, the robots are ridiculous. When you beat a Thunderjaw, which is like the equivalent of a T-Rex, it's like one of the greatest accomplishments, man. You just feel awesome. It's like, it's crazy. And yeah, the gameplay is rock solid, and it's pretty surprising how you can play a game that's that high fidelity in graphics and it can run so smoothly. I'm playing it on the PS4 Pro, so I don't know how it runs on the PS4, but it's ridiculous, man. It's a great game, and but yeah, those are my 3 games.
Awesome picks. So now I have to ask a question before I give my 3 picks. This is a question for Carlos and Tony. Why didn't Zelda make you guys list as one of the top 3 best games for the first 3 months of the year?
Because like I said, I'll talk about that on a Patreon exclusive episode one day. But there's a couple things. Like I loved Yakuza 0. When I reviewed it, I said it was a great game. You know, there are games like that came out throughout this entire quarter that there was one reason or another that we just couldn't play them.
Okay.
Yeah, my reason is simple. Those other games are better.
Yeah,
that's my whole reason. Like, don't get me wrong, man. Like, at the top before I started, I said Zelda was a great game, but like, despite all that, there's still some things about it that kind of irk me, especially like the weapon breaking is really fucking annoying. Like, don't get me wrong, like, you know, I know the Dark Souls games have that too, but this game just takes it to a whole other level, you know. And it's just, you know, it's just a couple of things in the game that really irk me, you know. Although I will say, from now on, I expect every game to let me climb any mountain. I love that in Zelda. Just climb whatever you want. You know, that's great. But no, it's just simply because those other games I felt were better, you know. But I did find it interesting how nobody in this panel picked Zelda, even though that game's like a 12 out of 10 according to some of these sites. You know, but yeah, that's my reason. I just felt those other games were better.
And I'll tell you this: like I mentioned this on Throwdown, I mentioned this on the last co-op. Zelda gets graded on a curve, whether you like it or not. It's
Agreed.
But it doesn't mean it's a bad game. It's a good game. Zelda's Breath of the Wild is a really good game for what it is. You know, it does a lot of stuff well. You can climb anything. That surprised me. That's one thing that Zelda does that I don't think any other game I've played does. Like, you can literally climb anything.
Yeah, I don't think so, man. I think that's the only game that does that, really.
Yeah, it's great. It's like you're surprised, but the weapon system is lackluster. Like, you have to, like, think about it like this. I started off the game. I picked up an axe from somewhere. I forgot where I picked it up from. I saw a camp of 3 enemies. I killed them, and my axe is gone. It's like I didn't do anything, and my axe was gone.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm hoarding weapons that I don't want to use because I'm afraid of breaking them, you know? And I'm going to say this, right? Now I understand why the citizens of Hyrule lost against Ganon, because all their weapons break. You know? That's why they lost the war. It's bullshit. Like, I don't mind if they have, like, weapon breaking or whatever, but at least, okay, 2 things: make them more durable, and 2, at least let me fix them. I know some weapons you can repair, but you need, like, these extra materials and shit. It's like, come on, man. Like, at the end of the day, it's supposed to be like a fun Zelda game, you know? It's like the weapon breaking. I don't understand why you threw that in there. I thought that was a little bit too much. I liked all the other survival aspects they threw in there, and I'm not usually a survival game type of guy, but the weapon breaking was a little too much, man.
Yeah, and it's the story. I mean, so far I haven't beaten the game, but like, the story seems it's okay. I mean, what's there? It's okay. And graphically, you know, the Switch, for whatever anybody wants to say, the Switch is not a console. It's a portable platform. So for what it is, graphically it looks fine, but if we're going to compare it to what, like, the games that are out for the consoles, it doesn't come close. It's severely downgraded for its fidelity to graphics, and I understand, because so it can work on the Switch, and that's fine, but it just, I played it immediately after Horizon, so I mean, what are you gonna say? Like,
yeah, bro, like, those graphics. Okay, here's the thing: the art style of the game is dope, right? I like the art style in it. The graphics, the technology behind it, very disappointing. And then, especially after you come after Horizon, it's like, oh man, this thing is all like foggy looking and shit,
washed up.
Yeah, exactly, washed out, exactly. You know, so definitely disappointing there. But I'm getting ahead of myself now, so I'll stop.
Yeah, so that's the reason why it wasn't part of my top 3.
Okay, those are some great explanations. I'll be very curious to see if it makes the disappointing list, but we'll get into that in a little bit. So as for my 3 picks, let me start by saying this. This quarter, I came to an epiphany, and that is that there is not enough hours in the day to play all of these games. Not for me. You know, I remember when the first Mass Effect came out, you know, I was still a pretty young individual. We're a lot older now, so I don't have quite as much time to play every game, to throw 100 hours in this game, another 100 in this game. It's very difficult. So with that said, I made time for these 3 games because I enjoyed them the most out of every game that I have played so far this year. There's been a lot of great games. Yakuza 0 is a game that I still have. Like, a lot of these games I purchased on day 1, but I have yet to play them. Horizon Zero Dawn, another game that I have, and I purchased on day 1 after reading Tony Polanco's review. The game is a game that I have no doubt it is going to be a Game of the Year contender. I just haven't had the time to play it. And this is the reason why. My first pick, without a doubt, it's Nier Automata. This game is fantastic. You know, I tried to find certain flaws with the game. Don't really find too many flaws in it. I enjoyed the combat. I like the fact that the camera switches in different directions, and that forces you to play the game in different ways. I like the music. Like Mr. Lugo said earlier, the soundtrack is phenomenal. You know, I don't really play too many action RPGs like this. So I especially wanted to jump into this game because, again, when I played the demo earlier this year, that was what sold me on the game. And the game is fantastic so far from what I have played. I haven't had a chance to finish it because, you know, there were so many games that came out around that time, and even before that I'm still playing. But without a doubt, that is my first pick. And I would say for now, for me, it is a Game of the Year contender. Obviously, I haven't played Horizon yet, so that may change again as the year goes on. But Nier, this is a must-play game. If you enjoyed the demo, as I said on previous episodes, you need to play this game because I like the storytelling so far. Again, I haven't completed the game in full yet, but from what I have played so far, I have to say I've had a lot of fun with it. The only reason that I haven't finished it yet, this goes to my second pick, which also is Mass Effect Andromeda. Now, as I said earlier, you know, I heard Gary said that the game is phenomenal. The game is truly fantastic. I don't, you know, you have to look at a game like this as when BioWare said this is a separate game from, you know, it's not meant to be compared to 2 and 3. But still, you know, when I look at the story with 2 and 3 and the fact that you had Shepard, the fact that you built up such a fantastic story, again, I'm not too far into Mass Effect yet. Where I'm at this point, I could say it's pretty damn great. But to think about how fantastic the second and third games were, not talk about the ending of 3 because that's a little bit too controversial. But the games, both of those games to me are classics. So it's very hard for anybody to top those games. And you really have to remember that when you play this game, you can't compare it to the other games. It's very difficult. I find myself, you know, making those comparisons, and I had to stop myself. But for what it is, the game is fantastic. I don't like the fact that it got such a negative reaction with the animations and stuff. Yes, it needs more polish, you know, but I know EA, you know, they wanted to get this game out, you know, as part of their first quarter for 2017. So obviously they pushed it out. And I know this because I know Battlefront 2 is going to be at their EA Play event in June. They want to put a lot of focus on that game because that's coming out this fall, and including NBA Live and Madden, all this other stuff. So this is why they wanted to hurry up and get Mass Effect out, you know, get that out. But the game definitely needed more polish in certain areas with animations. I've seen a lot of instances where I would be on a planet and I would see enemies in the distance, and I see they're moving really janky, and you could tell it's not really polished and refined the way that it needs to be. But with that said, the game is fantastic. The characters are fantastic. The relationships that you can make, the amount of hours you spend in the game. You know, we actually have our other friend, Max Muller. I know he's watching today's show. He's not on the show, but I was going to be playing multiplayer with him. I haven't even got a chance to do that because I'm just so enriched in the story and trying to complete all the quests. So this is a game that, you know, it eats up a lot of your time, which is a good thing. But it's also bad because you may not get to play other games that you want to play. But with that said, so far, I'm enjoying the game. You know, I had to tell myself it's not going to be Mass Effect 2 or 3, and I'm fine with that. What they've made is great. I'm not glad that it's gotten some bad press, but I'm looking forward to finishing that. And then, of course, once we've all completed, we definitely need to do a podcast just to talk about Mass Effect in general, the story, some of the decisions, so on and so forth, because there's so much that you can talk about from that game. But definitely a high pick on my list. And my third and final pick so far, once again, Gravity Rush 2. Now, I will say again, this is a game where I did get a chance to dabble in the first game. I did not finish the first game. So coming into this game, this is another situation where I played the demo of it early, and I enjoyed the demo. I figured that the game may be kind of good. I was surprised with this game. This game, you know, I think this was a very solid start for Sony this year. Sony has had an excellent year releasing exclusives, but this was the first game that, you know, it came out in January, and it came out right before Yakuza 0. So this is the reason why I didn't get to Yakuza 0 yet, because I did play a lot of Gravity Rush 2. But the game is fantastic. I very much like the character Cat. I like the controls, everything, you know. And I feel that definitely needs to be mentioned. With that said, there are a lot of other great games that did come out. You know, Sniper Elite 4 was great. Halo Wars 2 was great, but these three games, without a doubt, in my opinion, games I enjoyed the most so far this quarter. So, you know, it's too many games, man, too many great games, but all fantastic. So with that said, now we need to talk about the one game that we were disappointed by this quarter. So, Carlos, how about you let us know what your disappointment was first?
Oh shit. So so I'm gonna have to come up with some. I'm gonna have to come up with it later. But honorable mentions. I'm gonna have some honorable mentions, and they're not game disappointments, but I want to mention some disappointments in general. So number one, the launch of the Switch. The Switch came out super rushed. It doesn't have it has the bare bones of an online infrastructure. It still uses freaking friend codes, which I think we got lied to. I thought they said that they're going to use friend codes.
Yeah, they lied.
Man, it's ridiculous, man. Like friend codes are. Anyways, they have friend codes. They don't have a chat system. They launch with 9 games. It's getting better. They have like 20 or so games now on the eShop. There's something like, I don't know about you guys. I don't know who else has a Switch other than Tony, but when I signed to the eShop, every time it asked me for my password.
Yeah, that's why I don't go to eShop anymore. Fuck that shit, man.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, dude.
And I used a really like complicated password so my shit wouldn't get hacked, or like it'll be harder to get hacked. So so it's like, oh man, so what's my password again? But anyways, the games, the infrastructure, they did the shortages again. They did the artificial scarcity. It's hard to find a Switch right now when they said there was going to be no shipment problems at launch.
Yeah, so, and the prediction is there's going to be shortages up until the end of the year.
Yeah, then it's
Nintendo, man.
They're trying to make this the hot system that people are going to buy. So like they're doing that artificial scarcity again. They've done it like the last 2 launches, and so yeah, the Switch launch. Oh, and the Joy-Cons. Don't forget the disconnected to the Joy-Con, and oh man,
and the Joy-Cons themselves.
Yeah, and the Joy-Cons themselves. They're making them symmetrical, so 2 people can use them like at the same time, right? Like one person can use one Joy-Con, the other person can use the other Joy-Con, and it's a neat idea for multiplayer, for like couch co-op and stuff like that. But man, that doesn't help it when you're just trying to play it by yourself, because especially that right thumb Joy-Con, when you have your thumb on that right thumbstick and you're trying to press the other buttons, it just doesn't feel good, and I really hate it because of that. Because I like it as a portable, but I don't like the right Joy-Con. It just doesn't feel good to me, and I have average to medium sized hands, so I don't even like they weren't made for my hands. What else? Oh yeah, so this is number 2 honorable mention, and this is going to be really controversial, but I don't care. Microsoft exclusive games in the first quarter, or the lack of, because this.
Yo, man, don't hate on Halo Wars 2.
That's the only game that I can think of that they released, or any game of note that they released this quarter that was an exclusive game. So we're talking about how, yeah, this is Gameageddon. There's so many games. Like, I think everyone in this panel has been saying there's too many games to play. But how many of those are Xbox exclusives? Like 1? And it's a niche title. It's an RTS, and I don't like playing RTSs on a console. I like playing my RTSs on the PC. But I can play Halo Wars. I think I can play Halo Wars on the PC. Yeah, you can. So anyways, but man, it's ridiculous. Like, there's no games, and people are saying, "Oh, wait for E3, wait for E3." I'm like, that's half the year is done. What about the first half of the year? You know, like it's ridiculous. Like when are people gonna hold Microsoft's feet to the fire? I'm like, it's slowly but surely getting there. I've been seeing some Xbox fans like shitting on Major Nelson and all those guys because they're promoting controllers now. They're releasing more peripherals than they are exclusive games, you know, because they have that new like laser edge controller thing. And it's like, yo, I already have like 5 like Xbox controllers. Like a lot of us have multiple Xbox controllers. And yeah, man, it's just, it's so disappointing that they out of everyone need to step their game up because they're the ones not selling as well as their competitor. They need to get better, man. And I've been and I'm not a pony, whatever, like people are going to call me a pony for this, but I've been rocking with Xbox since day one. I've had my Xbox Live Gold membership or Xbox Live subscription for over 10 years now, 12 years, I think. So they need to step their game up because I have an Xbox One, I have an Xbox One S, and it's collecting dust up the ass, man. I need that shit to get like used. So that's honorable mention number 2. So I'm trying to think of a game that's disappointing because I didn't really play a game that disappointed me this year. Because I played Resident Evil, I played Yakuza, I played Mass Effect. Okay, I'll say this, and it's part of the whole thing that we talked about earlier. How, and I think Gary might do this too. I'm not sure. Mass Effect Andromeda is incomplete. As great as the game is, and it's in my top 3 because it's a great game. Those cutscenes, the dialogue, the voice acting, it's not good. And for me, like the other stuff is good enough to outweigh it because at the end of the day, you're going to spend most of your time scavenging planets, trying to terraform the planets, trying to like defeat your enemies and trying to go from planet to planet. But the worst part of the game is when you get to the dialogue, when you get to a cutscene, because you're like, oh shit, I'm gonna have to go through this. Like I mentioned on Throwdown, like when you see that first Krogan and the Krogan starts talking, I'm like, what the fuck is that? Is that how a Krogan sounds like now? I don't know if you guys remember, but the Krogan when you talk to is like they talk like this. We're gonna have to go over here to go to Israel. I'm like, what? They don't sound like my Krogans.
Like I told you, that was a female Krogan. When you meet male Krogans, they sound the way they're supposed to. You know, I am Krogan. I will destroy you. They sound like they're supposed to. That was a female Krogan. That's what they sound like.
And they even if they're female Krogans, they need a little bit more bass in their like because like you look at the Krogan, it talks. It doesn't like you're like, man, that's not how it's supposed to sound.
So wait, you weren't weirded out by the female Krogan in Mass Effect 3 because she sounded just like a normal woman too.
I don't remember that.
She remember like the whole mission was to get her, and then when you finally get her, she just sounds normal. She didn't have a bass in her voice or anything.
I remember the mission, but I remember the voice. But
yeah, she just sounded normal.
Even if also if it was like that back then, then it's a knock on that game too.
Yeah.
So like yeah, like. I'm gonna say part of Mass Effect was my biggest disappointment. It's not a complete game. It's not. They took design decisions that made for a worse experience. So that decision is to go with one of the ex-workers of the Mass Effect team that talked about the animations said that they took away where the cutscenes or those dialogue scenes are generated through an algorithm. So they're not mocapped or they're not anything like that. They're just generated from an algorithm that detects what they're saying. So that's what they're speaking, you know? So they took design decisions for that game that need to be rethought of when the next one comes out, because it's gonna be under a microscope, and people put all that stuff into a microscope and placed most of their collective thought in the game just on that stuff. which is unfortunate because it is a great game. Other than that stuff, it is a great game, and it would have been even better game if that stuff wasn't there to hinder it.
I think that goes back to what was said, what I mentioned earlier about the polish. Yeah, the game needed more polish, and with more time, they could have corrected a lot of things. But I know they said they're going to have a lot of patches, but none of those patches will be addressing any of the animation stuff anytime soon, because they already said the day one patch wasn't going to fix that stuff. So,
right, and you know, like when we're talking about Horizon Zero Dawn, when that came out, we're like, yeah, that's our game of the year so far.
yeah.
But wait till Mass Effect. And all right, I waited, and it's not. I don't think it's going to beat Horizon, so it's a shame, but that's how it is.
We'll see. Well, yeah, good pick for disappointment, but it makes sense. Mr. Lugo, how about you go next?
So again, I haven't been able to play everything, so I can't really speak to that in per se or agree or disagree. But I have played a couple other games that weren't that great, that were actually pretty bad, or ones that were just way below the standard of quality that's set by a lot of the games that came out within this first quarter. Probably the most disappointing and probably the worst game of our first quarters thus far has to be that Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Mega Battle game. And the reason being is because that game overall, a concept, an idea, and an IP that's built off the basis of teamwork, you know, and the idea of like, you know, action and all this other stuff, just felt like the way that the game was designed, the way that it was put together was totally contradictory to all that. Meaning that now in this day and age, we have a lot of multiplayer games that have online co-op. It's just, again, a lot of beat 'em ups are like that, a lot of shooters, and Power Rangers is a property that lends itself to co-op, that lends itself to online co-op specifically, because there's a lot of different Power Rangers fans that are out there, a lot of people that were excited about the new movie, which is why I think we got this game really in the first place. Otherwise, there would hardly be a reason for it to exist. But not having the online co-op, even though there is local co-op, and it's not even, what is it? It's not even like what you would expect. You could be, I think it's up to 4 players, you know, similar to Castle Crashers and stuff. But like, you want to be able to have the ability to have all the Rangers there. You want to be able to at least be able to do that, or be given the opportunity to do that with other people and have no limitations to that. Because without online co-op in that game, it totally kills that experience. And let alone a lot of other aspects of it are just poorly designed. The hit detection was terrible. They use clips and sounds from the actual show, specifically from the first 2 seasons or 3 seasons, I believe. And even then, like, some of the stuff either gets overly repetitive to like a fault, or it just, again, doesn't sound right, or it's like because it's ripped from like DVDs or something, or just ripped from the show. There's a lot of kind of, you know, little hiccups here and there that you'll notice throughout the experience that just don't work that well. So overall, that has to probably be my most disappointing game that I've played within this first quarter.
Hey, totally understand that. It's unfortunate because I heard the movie is pretty got some pretty okay reviews. So even though the game is not connected, that sucks. The multiplayer especially doesn't make any sense. Should have online, but it is what it is. So Gary, how about you go next?
Yeah, definitely, you know, really hard to choose because I really didn't play any bad games this quarter, I have to say. But the one game I am gonna kind of talk about, it might surprise you, Rich. But you know, I have reasons for choosing this, so I'm gonna go with Halo Wars actually. And you know,
the bots are coming now, Gary. Get ready, man.
I'll bring them on. But yeah, it's mainly because, you know, this was the one major you know, Xbox One exclusive that we had this quarter, and I kind of feel like, you know, it didn't do what it should have in terms of being an RTS, like a real-time strategy type of game. And I feel like the only thing it did was kind of saturate the Halo brand, the Halo name. Because, you know, I mean, we make fun of it now. Like, Halo is something we make fun of Microsoft for because it's like their go-to series now, and they don't have, you know, a broader variety of Xbox, you know, IPs and stuff like that. So the fact that you're just putting this out and it's not phenomenal, or it doesn't reinvent the wheel or do anything original, and you've attached the Halo name to it, it's kind of just adding to that saturation of the Halo IP. I feel like, and that's kind of disappointing to see, in my opinion.
And it didn't sell well.
Yeah,
it's the only
the
exclusive.
numbers.
It's the only exclusive, and people didn't flock to it.
Yep, the numbers show.
Yeah, they were too busy shitting on Horizon Zero Dawn instead of actually buying that game and playing it. Isn't that ironic?
Yeah, I feel
Talking
like
about how exclusives are anti-consumer and bullshit like that. Get out of here with that noise.
yeah, Xbox just really needed that one heavy hitter this quarter, and they just didn't have it. Like in Halo, it didn't live up.
So, yeah. So let me make a quick comment before I get Tony's pick. I do believe that the game was going to be a hard sell no matter what, because it's a console RTS. And like I said, it's not a game that's for everybody. So I don't think the expectation was that it was going to sell a ridiculous amount of numbers. I think Microsoft has a strategy, and the strategy is to just release all of these other games on Scorpio later this year. So obviously, then they didn't really have a strong first quarter. I think the same will happen with April. I mean, from what I understand, nothing will be talked about until E3. So we'll see about that. But yeah, this was a game. I mean, I personally didn't think it was going to sell well, because just because it's Halo, this is not a typical Halo game. It's not a first-person shooter. So already this is a different audience they're going after. But it is what it is. But yeah.
Yeah, I got into a discussion about why Neo outsold, and that's another game I don't think anybody's played, but it's like a game that this was an honorable mention. But like we had a discussion about why Neo outsold Halo Wars 2. Like, people were saying, "Oh, I'm surprised that Halo Wars didn't outsell Neo," and I'm like, "Well, you gotta understand, Halo Wars is more of a niche game than Neo is. So that makes it even harder of a sell for Halo Wars to that audience."
Yeah, it's like, okay, Neo, you could consider that a niche title because it's just super difficult, but it's not as niche as an RTS game on a console. You that's the thing people need to understand here.
The other thing I was going to add is that Neo is also compared to Dark Souls. So that, to me, a lot of people love Dark Souls.
And apparently Neo sold gangbusters, And here's the funny thing about like these Dark Souls type of games. They're always underestimated, but they always sell really well. Granted, this is not a Dark Souls game, it's just styled like it, but it goes to prove that people like these really hardcore, intense action games, Every time a Dark Souls game saw, even Bloodborne, the game's not going to sell that well. They fucking sell like crazy. Neo, the only thing, and Sony fucked this up, right? They didn't make enough for the game because they thought it wasn't going to sell either. And the game sold out. It's crazy.
It's ridiculous.
Don't underestimate these games, man.
That's right.
Yeah, just by slapping the Halo title and franchise into a game is not going to sell it.
Look, let's just be honest, man. That Halo name doesn't mean what it used to. Even Halo 5 didn't do that well. That people moved on. Halo ain't what it used to be. It's only the hardcore guys still fucking with Halo now.
That all goes back to that Master Chief collection. The 343 did a bad job. Had some issues with that.
Man.
Yeah, I agree.
Don't start that, man. I don't know if you guys told you guys, but when the Master, I was the biggest Halo fan ever, man. I was so big into Halo. I still kind of am, but when that Master Chief collection came out, I asked for the week off from work. Ask me how many times I got to play, man.
None.
Exactly, man. I played 0 matches. I couldn't get a match that whole week.
And Chris on Throwdown, same thing, man. He couldn't play the game. And here's the funny thing, Chris, this dude's old school Halo, right? Love fucking Halo. He bought Halo 5 and never even took it out the shrink wrap, bro.
Oh shit!
The game don't mean nothing anymore.
Wow.
This is what happens. That's why they had to, But that's another topic. Tony, let us know which game disappointed you last quarter.
Yeah, let me just say this, man. You know you had a good quarter when you have a problem picking a disappointing game, son. Like me personally, I didn't play a game that disappointed me. Like the only one I heard was a disappointment, which I did want to play, but I just didn't get around to, was Double Dragon 4. Like I heard it's one of those instances where it's like, fuck, like maybe nostalgia is best not revisited in some cases.
Yeah, Mighty Number 9.
Oh, Mighty Number 9 is just terrible. Now, I'm not gonna. I'll stop before I get started. But so I'm only gonna base this on what I actually experienced myself, right? And even though this isn't, a game, and Carl's already touched on this, the actual Switch itself, very disappointing, right? Because again, even though it is a portable device, when you plug it into your TV, you see it as a console, right? And on that front, very disappointing, like subpar graphics. The virtual console wasn't even up and running. The eShop is shit. There's no games for it. There's only Zelda's the only good game for this thing. But even when you play it in handheld mode, it doesn't feel good. Like after 20 minutes, I want to put the thing down. It's just very cumbersome to play, especially like if you compare it to a Vita, which just feels so good to play. Like the Switch is just very cumbersome. The Joy-Cons are trash. Like I'm sorry, they just are. They're horrible. And I think Nintendo's gonna pull some shit where they upgrade the console in a year or two. Like this guy Ben Heck, he stripped the whole console down. He's like, oh look, you could actually easily upgrade this thing, if you want, easily upgrade for Nintendo, not for the average consumer, right? But yeah, I'm gonna say that the Switch, the launch was definitely disappointing, and I think it's gonna be a disappointment up until maybe Mario comes out, because again, there's nothing for it. It's like, okay, I like Zelda. Zelda's a dope game. I like playing it with my Pro controller. A controller that should have came packed in with the console, but the actual hardware itself, very, very disappointing. I know some people out there, they're very impressed by it. And yes, as a handheld, purely a handheld, it is pretty impressive what they were able to do, but it's also a console too. And on that front, very disappointing. So that I'm going to have to go with that, the Switch.
Well, that's understood. So, so with that said, let's switch it up and let's talk about the next quarter now. Yeah. All right. So, of course, that's, between April to June, there's quite more games coming out. I wanted to ask you guys to pick one game that you're looking forward to next quarter. So, Tony, how about you go first?
Yeah, next quarter is interesting. It's definitely not as heavy as this one, but there's still some good stuff out coming. I'm gonna go, even though, oh my god, I'm probably not gonna get to play this game because it's just I've been playing. Okay, this is another one of those games that's like 50 million hours long, and I'm already playing a bunch of other games that are super long. But I'm gonna have to go with Persona 5. I actually just finished Persona 4 for the first time like a couple months ago. I thought the game was fantastic. I'm like, I want some more of that. So I'm going to go with Persona 5, but I will say I think people should be on the lookout for Prey. I think that may be a sleeper hit. Like it has all the makings of it, right? And Injustice 2 should be pretty dope. I'm also kind of looking forward to Rhyme, which looks pretty cool. But for me personally, I'm going to go with Persona 5. That's going to be a really fun game.
Sounds good. Let me make a very quick comment for those that think someone mentioned it in the chat. I didn't talk about my disappointment for this past quarter. Let me just say this. I got a chance to play this game, spent a little bit of time with it, and the little bit of time I spent with it, that was enough for me to say, you know what, I'm finished. That game is For Honor. I don't think it was. I like the fact that, I like the fact that it's a new IP that was created. That's great. It just, to me, it doesn't really feel like it was a lot of content, and I noticed that this is an issue with a lot of Ubisoft games, where it's a game where a lot of stuff is online focused. I remember when I tried to play the online portion of For Honor a couple times, I had issues connecting. And, obviously, I guess that's expected because of the online functionality stuff. But to me, for what it is, it's a very short campaign. For what it is, I think that's a game where maybe it was the issue. I really don't agree with the pricing on the game. It probably should have been a lot less when it came out, in terms of the price. But it's just not a game that I saw that it was #1 on MPD, and that's good. I'm glad that as a new IP, it's getting, a lot of people picked it up. That's good. But for me personally, I was not impressed. I think that the game could have offered a lot more for what it was, but just my personal opinion. I wanted to throw that out there. So let's get back on track to continue with the games we're looking forward to. Gary, how about you let us know what's one game you're looking forward to this upcoming quarter?
I will say this next quarter looks like there's going to be some pretty good games. Also, you know, we got two really good fighting games to look forward to and stuff. And you know, we got Prey and Outlast, stuff like that. So there's a lot to look forward to. But I'm gonna have to go with Persona 5 because you know I love my RPGs. Like Tony, you know, I'm a bit worried about how I'm actually going to get to play it because I still have so many games that I need to beat still. So I'm probably not going to end up getting Persona 5 for quite a while actually, because I want to make sure I finish games first. I still got Tales of Berseria to finish as well. That's another JRPG. So yeah, it might be a while before I actually get to start Persona. But I'm definitely looking forward to it because, you know, I know it's been a highly anticipated game. I did actually go back and play Persona 4 Golden. I didn't beat that game, but, you know, I played enough to get the feel of that series, the Persona series. So, yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to this game. From what I've seen, it looks very interesting. But, yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, so that's two picks for Persona. Interesting. Yes. So, Mr. Lugo, how about you go next?
I mean, again, a lot of us are going to have very similar picks overall. But for the sake of just being different, just so we could get some shine on some other games that are going to be good next quarter. I mean, again, like some of the games, like even looking through the list, like of which ones that are coming out very soon, there's so many: Persona 5, Injustice, Tekken, you know, Crash, Insane Trilogy. But I want to give shine to the Fire Emblem game that's coming out, Fire Emblem Echoes on a 3DS, because I think out of all of us, I think I'm the one that saw the most of it when I was at PAX East. And from what they're doing and the way that they're evolving that series, or where they're taking it even further, they're building upon the foundation of the previous Fire Emblem 3DS games, which I think is great. So you have everything there that you love about Fire Emblem Fates or Fire Emblem Awakening, but then now they're introducing other elements into it, including a lot of dungeon exploration, as well as also random battles, you know, borrowing elements from traditional RPGs or JRPGs and implementing them into the Fire Emblem battle system and all these other stuff. And this is all done into a remake, which is awesome because the original Fire Emblem game that this is based off of was on the Famicom, and it was a lot more basic. It was a lot more how like those games were designed back then. So I'm glad to see so much like effort being put into this remake and making it feel fresh and new and feel like a brand new Fire Emblem game, even though it's not necessarily a new entry into the series. It's a total reimagining of that classic game, which I think is cool. Definitely one to look out for.
Sounds awesome. Yes, definitely. Fire Emblem is always a good series. So that should be interesting. Okay, next. Carlos, how about your pick for the next quarter?
Yeah, I think this is going to get pretty old now, but Persona 5, man. Persona 5 is, man, I can't wait for that game. It look like I've seen some gameplay videos and they look amazing. Like that's like Tony said, it's a game that you know you're gonna play for a long time. So man, we could probably play that game for the whole quarter. That's how long it'll take, man. So yeah, Persona 5 is definitely the game that I'm looking forward to the most the next quarter.
Sounds cool. So you know, yes, Persona 5 I think is without a doubt that's probably one of the bigger games coming out next quarter. You do have Injustice 2 coming out. You do have a couple other games here or there. Ukulele as well, another one. But for my pick, I also am going to pick another game that no one is really talking about now. I feel like it's one of those games that it has a potential to get overlooked only because it's coming out directly after, it comes out immediately after Persona 5 comes out the following week. It's a game that is also made by Tequila Works, who is working on Rhyme, but this is a game that I got a chance to play and see during GDC. We got a little bit of sound there, Carlos.
Oh, my bad.
No. So my pick is a game called The Sexy Brutale. So let me explain what this game is, because it's a game I saw at GDC. It's being made by Tequila Works, and I believe it's Cavalier Game Studios. Basically, it's a game in which you are basically running a hotel, and it's a murder mystery type puzzle game where there are certain things that happen, and it's presented as a puzzle. So when I started the game, basically I have to solve a murder, because there's different guests that are staying in this particular hotel. And you have to keep repeating time over and over again to try and prevent certain things from happening. So when I played the demo, there was a character that he actually got shot, in the nearby church part of the actual hotel. So I pretty much had to figure out a puzzle going from different rooms and looking at the person, finding out the people who shot him, certain instances of it. You walk into a room, but you can't be seen by the person that is actually going to kill the other person, because if you do, then you don't survive. It's very hard to really describe the game without actually showing footage of it. So I will show footage of it in the future to give you guys a better understanding. But pretty much, it's something where these events constantly happen over time, and you have to go back into those instances and try to prevent them from happening. Of course, if you fail in doing so, you have to keep doing it over and over again until you figure out what the puzzle is. But it's a unique type of game in the sense that, I am someone who likes murder mysteries to an extent. I think I've said that in the past. But it's just so different and unique. It's not really like a typical big budget AAA title like any of the titles we mentioned. And I'm pretty sure all of the titles we mentioned are going to be fantastic. I have no doubt about that. This is a game, though, I think also is going to be unique in its sense. When you look at it, you play it and you experience it, it is a different type of game. It's not your typical type of, mystery game. So I definitely think that that's a game I'm going to be looking forward to. Obviously, I'll know more about it because it is coming out, I believe, around April 12th. So expect us to have more thoughts on the game in the future. But I think that's definitely one game I'm looking forward to more. Keep in mind, I did play Injustice 2. I enjoyed Injustice 2 for what it was. But this game, I think, is, I enjoyed this game more from what I played at GDC. So that's definitely my pick for a game I'm looking forward to next quarter. I know a lot of people probably haven't heard of that game. That's all right. You'll be hearing more about it because I'm telling you, a lot of people have played that game and they're saying good things about it. So we'll definitely talk more about that in the future. So with that said, now let's talk about a game that we think is going to be disappointing. And this might be very difficult because, again, this is a situation where there's a lot of games that are coming out. But I'm very curious to hear what everybody's opinion is. So, Gary, how about you go first and let us know which game you think is going to be disappointing next quarter?
I'm still kind of deciding. Can you come back to me?
Absolutely. So, Mr. Lugo, do you have your pick ready?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
And this one's a little bit, I want to say a little bit kind of, it's tough because there's a lot of other good games that are coming out next quarter, which is great. It's a great problem to have. And even then, there's a lot of games I think that none of us have really kind of explored or dived into as much. So it's a little bit tough to say that they're going to be disappointments. But one that I think has the biggest potential to be a disappointment, and even then, I say this after having played it a number of times at different events, Drawn to Death. And the reason why is because not because the premise behind the game is any bad. It actually is kind of cool. And, from the experience that I've had, I've enjoyed what I've seen thus far. But there's been a lot of different stuff, posted up, not only in the news, but also at various different points where we haven't gotten a lot of updates up until more recently here and there about Drawn to Death. Originally, it was going to be a free-to-play game, and then it wasn't. And then there was, that large gap in time where we didn't hear anything about it. And then now after PSX, last December and up to this point, we've actually got a date for it, which is, I think it's coming out next month or the month after, right around the corner. And it's one of those things where it's either going to be like one of those kind of hidden successes or just like those diamonds in the rough a little bit, you know, in a sea of like all these other big games that are coming out at the same time, or is going to be one of those like quick like whatever type of games and quickly be forgotten. At least that's where I see a lot of the kind of reception for it. It's going to be when it comes out, and there isn't a lot of stuff to get excited for it right now. I mean, it's a third-person shooting action game, third-person shooter, practically, you know, with a huge competitive aspect to it. We don't really have much about the rest of the game, or at least, you know, anything else to really get people start talking about it a lot. But I will say though, again, from my personal experience, from seeing it the last few times, and also the fact that it's going to be free on PlayStation Plus when it comes out that first week or first month that it's out. That's interesting. But that's the one game I could choose out of all the games coming out next quarter that might have the biggest potential to be a disappointment.
I think that makes sense as a pick because, yeah, a lot of concerns. Everybody knows David Jaffe makes great games, but obviously they're probably going to make some comparisons with his other games to this game, and I don't know. But yeah, I also find it interesting. It is going to be free on PlayStation Plus, so I will definitely check it out and see what it has to offer, but we'll see. Mr. Polanco, do you have your pick ready to go?
Yeah, it's funny because, you know, I had myself muted, but when JJ said Drawn to Death, I'm like, damn it, he took my pick. Yeah, Drawn to Death, man, like there's nothing about this game that really like screams that it's going to be like a big must game, you know, must own game. Like I didn't get to play, but I saw some of it at PlayStation Experience, and I don't know, man, like because it just seems, I could be wrong, but it just seems like it's just another one of those like multiplayer competitive shooting games, you know, like it does have a interesting art style going on, but I don't know, man. Like, there's just something about this game, like it sets my spider sense off. You know, I really think it's going to be disappointing. And you know, I'm going to be completely honest. Like people always talk about David Jaffe this, David Jaffe that. The man, you know, at least for me, has only really produced one good game, God of War. Everything else he's touched, like Twisted Metal, I don't give a fuck about. And you know, this calling all cars. Come on, man. Like I think the man like gets more like. I guess I don't know what the word would be, but like he gets a little bit more of a pass than he should. Like he really only did God of War. That's his really real biggest contribution to gaming. Even when he tried to bring Twisted Metal back, it wasn't all that. Don't get me wrong. I like the guy personally. He's very entertaining on Twitter, right? I got nothing against the man, but I don't think he's like one of these like mega stars like everybody else claims. So that's why I'm like, I don't know, man. This is a David Jaffe game. He hasn't really produced great shit beyond God of War, so I don't think this game's going to be all that hot either. And then just the fact that it's going to be free on PlayStation when it debuts, that kind of lets me know right there what type of game this is going to be. So I think that's going to be a disappointment for sure.
Well, that's you know, I hope it's not a disappointment, but you know, I think you both made some good points. So we'll have to see how that turns out. I have no idea what to expect. We'll see. So Carlos, how about you go next and let us know what your pick is, unless you need more time.
No, I'm good. So I'm going to pick something different, and I hope this isn't a failure, but it could be the most disappointing. And that's Telltale's Guardians of the Galaxy series. For two reasons. Reason number one, we all know Telltale brings up these laggy, buggy ass, glitchy ass, running weird ass games, man. Like they're so simplistic games, but somehow they never run that good on anything, on the PC, on the consoles, on my Vita. Like they never run good. So that's one thing. And number two, which is the most important one, they're not the same voice actors as the ones in the movie. So they could really fall apart because whenever we see Rocket Raccoon, Drax, Star-Lord, we think of Batista and what's freaking Bradley Cooper and Chris Pratt. You know, we think of those guys, but when we start listening to the other voice actors, are they going to really throw us off, or how are they going to be? You know, so that's something that could really throw the game off. So hopefully I'm wrong, but that could possibly be one of the big disappointments of the second quarter.
Yeah, I was going to say that's an interesting pick because I mean, we'll see. Yeah, Telltale do have some issues, and in their games from time to time, performance issues. We've seen them many times. Looking forward to seeing if The Walking Dead Season 3, Episode 3 has any issues when that comes out on Tuesday, but we'll see. We'll see. So Gary, what is your pick?
Yeah, I was gonna go with Drawn to Death, but now I'm gonna switch up and I'm gonna go with Arms for the Switch because that is due out in
Oh
quarter two.
shit.
And I feel like, you know, this game has a lot kind of riding on it because at the moment, you know, Switch is a new console. You know, people are playing Zelda currently, but eventually, you know, that will kind of wear off on a lot of people and they'll be looking for more games to play. And as we know, the selection isn't, you know, that vast right now. And I feel like Arms, you know, isn't going to particularly give people what they're looking for at that point in time when it releases.
Hey Gary, here's a dumb question. I don't know if you guys know, but can you play Arms in portable mode?
I'm assuming you can because you could use it with a normal control or the Pro controller. You can play with a Pro controller if you want. So I'm going to assume you can too.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because
That's a good question though.
Yeah. By the way, Gary, just to quickly jump in, I feel that game is disappointing because it should have been Punch Out. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah, Punch Out would have been much better. Yeah, that would have been ideal. But yeah, I feel like a lot of people will be disappointed in that game, and they definitely don't need a disappointment at this time because, you know, people are going to be looking for things to play. And they do have, you know, some things coming out like the Mario Kart games coming out as well, which is good. But, you know, this is like...
That's a remake, by the way, just putting it out there. That's a remake. Just
yeah, exactly. That's like the Mario Kart is a remake and this is a new game. So, you know, it kind of needs to deliver, but judging by what we've seen, I just don't feel like it will.
Oh, so, hey, well, we'll see what happens. I don't have an opinion because I haven't played any Switch games or Switch. But Arms, yeah, we'll see. I wasn't a fan of it when I saw it revealed, so this I would not be surprised if it is a disappointment. But yeah, we'll see. As for my disappointment for next quarter, another game that people maybe they've heard about it in the past, they really don't care about it. It's a game called Get Even. This actually was a title where I actually interviewed the devs several years ago when this game was going to be a different concept. It's supposed to be a psychological thriller, but it's just it has gone through a lot of different revisions. It's a completely different game now. I have no idea what to expect. A lot of stuff that they talked about at the time, you know, PlayStation 4 and Xbox One weren't out yet, and this was a game that was supposed to launch when those systems first came out. So I don't really know what to expect from the game at this point. Obviously, not really too much that I've seen on it. There's a couple of more videos that are going to be coming out because it is coming out fairly soon. But from what I have seen so far and what I have heard of changes they've made, it doesn't sound like it's going to be quite as good as it was supposed to be in the very beginning. We'll have to see about that. Again, it's a game that a lot of people haven't really heard of. I only know about it because we did interview the devs a while back, and at that time they talked about a lot of ambitious things they wanted to do. I don't think they're going to be able to do all of that stuff, but I could be wrong. But for right now, I do think that is going to be disappointment. It's based on what I know that they wanted to accomplish and what they actually are trying to do now. So we'll see. But that pretty much concludes our disappointments. So do you guys have any final shout outs that you would like to give as we wrap up the show? How about you go first, Mr. Lugo?
Just shout out to everybody that's in the chat that stood around for the show. We really appreciate it, guys. Shout out to the patrons, obviously the patron subscribers. Thank you for your support. Keep allowing us to keep bringing you guys some great content. Again, we still have more stuff coming to the patrons very, very soon. And as well as everybody else that leaves comments, sends us tweets, sends us emails, all that stuff, all that feedback that you guys gives us is really appreciated. So thank you. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely agree with that sentiment as well. Mr. Polanco, any final shout outs?
Yeah, man, you know how it is, man. As always, shout out to everybody in the chat. Dude's calling us the Koalition tonight, which is hilarious. You know, but it's all love, though. Yeah, shout out to you guys joining us, shooting the shit. The patrons, obviously, thank you for giving us your money. We appreciate that. And shout out to, you know, just the Koalition fam as always, man. Always kicking ass, playing games, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's funny. Koalition.
Yeah, Koalition.
Yeah. All right. So, how about you, Carlos? Any final shout outs?
Yeah, shout outs to all the fans listening, and shout out to you guys for having me.
Yeah, thank you both for being on the show, without a doubt, as always. Let me give my final shout outs and then I'll let Gary give his. Just want to give a shout out to all the fans that have been watching. We are going to be having the co-op episode 200 next week. We may have a couple of things going on for that show, so we'll let you guys know what's going on with that. But definitely come back next weekend because it's going to be a fun old time. Want to definitely give a shout out to the Patreon supporters for continuing to support us. And I'm going to give the floor to you, Gary.
Yeah, shouts to all the Patreon supporters. That's M. Collins, Sean Gority, Michael Hatcher, Stephen Ferron, Mauricio Aguilar, Himdil, Fergus Mills, Lelwyn Leslie, Nicholas Alvarez, and Nick Biazzo. We appreciate all your support, guys. And shouts to everybody who joined us in the chat today. Saw Black Star in there, Max was in there. Shouts to those guys. And I also want to shout out my new best friend, Seth, from the comment section. That's my dude.
Yo, Seth is crazy, man. But yo, shout out to him because he gave me a very nice compliment about the titles of Throwdown. He always liked those. But I'm like, yo, man, as far as I'm concerned, co-op has better fucking titles, man. You guys get those like heated titles. I love that shit. You know? I think I get too esoteric with my shits, but you guys get right to the point. I love that. When I see those Koalition titles, man, I always get a smile on my face, man. I'm like, oh, these motherfuckers are gonna go off in the comments today, boy. I love it.
Yeah, it's two different approaches how we do them. Like I definitely like your guys' titles because it's a lot more creative. Like you do a lot of wordplay with them, and I like that. But
Seth, he's cool, man. He's funny.
Yeah, absolutely. And give a shout out to everybody, including Seth. So we'll talk to you all next week. Have a great week and take it easy.
And play games.
Play